If you're a high school student who gets grades between the 70s and 80s, and you want to get your grades up to the 90s, but you don't want to sacrifice all your time studying or being a geek, then this video is for you. My name is Daniel, and in this short guide, I just want to highlight 7 of the mistakes students always make that keep them from achieving the goals or the academic goals that they want, and also are the reason why they're always so stressed and low on time for assignments. Why should you listen to me? Well, in the past 4 semesters I've been in high school, I've maintained averages from 94 to 96 consistently, and I've done this while also going to the gym 5 times a week, going out with friends 3 times a week, being able to play basketball whenever I want, juggling a hobby of graphic design on the side, 2 part-time jobs, and making sure I spend time with my family every single day. So needless to say, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but obviously it is manageable. And if you want to have, well, not necessarily the same life as me, but maybe the freedom to do the things that you want to do while still getting good grades, then keep paying attention. Okay, mistake number 1. You lack focus. And makes sense, it's probably the most obvious one. Without being able to focus on the task at hand, it's obviously a lot harder to finish the assignment or the study session with a high degree of quality, and also just trying to make sure that you don't spend 6 hours doing something that you could have done in 2 hours or an hour. And a lot of the reasons why people struggle with focusing is because of their attention span and their environment. For example, if you work in an environment where it's super messy all the time, there's too many distractions, there's too much stuff going on around you, then obviously you're going to be less focused. Another thing is that a lot of people make the habit of breaking their focus or breaking that workflow before they even reach the 30, 60, 90-minute mark. Although obviously it doesn't have to be that specific. The thing is, you get into that zone when you start working for a long period of time, and if you break that workflow or you break that state of focus by, for example, getting up and going to the washroom, checking your phone, talking to someone else that's not related to the assignment, then obviously it's going to be a lot harder to, when you go back into the task, it's going to be a lot harder to stay in that zone again. And so, like I said, if your focus was a bit better, you would be able to cut out all the distractions, which probably take up roughly 30 minutes of your 2-hour work period, let's say a quarter of your time. And it would also improve the quality of your work because you're actually thinking about the shit that you're doing. And not only that, you would be able to get the assignment done in much less time because your brain is actually working to its full capacity. A great way to start improving your focus is start studying or working in 30 to 60 to 90-minute blocks. Now, if your attention span and your focus is absolutely shit, then by all means try 30 minutes. But I think for most people, you can start by doing 1 hour and 90-minute blocks of focusing without your phone. You just sit there with only the stuff that you need to work. And by isolating yourself from any distractions and forcing yourself to focus at the task at hand, it'll be a lot better for you, and you'll probably get a lot more used to sitting there and only working on one thing. Mistake number 2, you lose time in school. Now, I know most of you guys don't really take school that seriously, and when I say school, I mean being in class and working in class. Now, I understand it's boring and stupid, but the amount of time you spend in school is roughly, I believe it's 6 to 8 hours. And if you waste all of that time, you lose 6 hours of possible productive work. And I know going on your phone or talking to friends is a lot more engaging and stimulating, but sometimes if you want to be able to save time and do the things that you actually want to do, like going outside and doing a hobby, or having time to just sleep in, then you gotta start capitalizing on the time that you have in school to do these work periods, and just ask the teacher questions as well, because a lot of the times you'll make this excuse saying that, oh, I don't know what's going on, I'm just going to email the teacher, and then until she responds, I'm not going to do it. So that's another point of interest there. And if you just focused and did work for maybe just 2 out of your 4 periods every single day, then you would save at least an hour of your time at home. Things would be so much easier. So for this step, I suggest putting your phone in your locker when you get to school. Just try it. You don't have to believe me. Just try it, and I think you'll find it so much easier to focus on whatever you're doing in front of you. Just pay attention in class because you don't have any other excuse, or you don't have any other activity to fall back on when you're feeling bored. You just have to focus at the task at hand. Mistake number 3. You can't think because you're tired. Now, there's too many people who stay up every single day playing video games or talking to friends or doom scrolling, and they sacrifice their cognitive ability and productivity tomorrow for some bullshit enjoyment today. And I don't even need to explain to you why it's bad, but I'll give you some benefits to why it will help you get good grades and get through assignments a lot faster. When you're able to think, you're able to focus more. The length of focus and flow state becomes a lot easier to get into. Another thing is that because you have more sleep, your brain is sharper and you can think of higher and more complex ideas that often become the foundations of your assignments. And not only that, but if you're able to be more awake, then obviously memorizing information and absorbing information is a lot easier, so that you don't have to go back and review your notes every single time because you already have the information in your brain from maybe the first 2 times you've heard it. So a great way to approach improving sleep is just trying to sleep at around the same time every single day. That could mean literally just sleeping between 10 to 11 every single day. It could be sleeping 11 to 12, although I suggest you try and optimize your sleep so you can get at least 7.5 hours, because obviously the amount of sleep also is important. But I suggest first focusing on sleeping the same time every single day, because that'll improve your circadian rhythm, which is just the pattern at which your body knows when to fall asleep or not. So sleep the same time every single day and try to optimize for 7.5 hours. Okay, number 4, you're a content demon. And what I mean by that is you spend a shitload of your time on TikTok, Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, and you're just binging on content. I used to be one of these people too, and what happens when you're in this state is that whenever you get bored, you just build up this habit of going on your phone and distracting yourself with that content. And it's not even necessarily the content that's the worst part. It's going on your phone and getting out of that flow state, like I said. Because whether or not you're in class and you're listening to the teacher and you suddenly go on your phone and lose all the information and forget all the information that they are presenting, even though some of it might be bullshit. Not only that, but you're also killing your time at home, right? For example, if you just got an assignment and you're like, okay, it's due in 2 weeks, and we just like go on my phone and shit. You end up wasting, let's say, a couple days, and now you're maybe like 3 days into the assignment and you got 4 days left. Now you're starting to think, oh shit, I gotta start working. So you start working, and then what happens is you start thinking of nothing. You can't think at all, because one of the habits from before were basically just because your attention span is so shit, you can't focus on the task at hand. And so what happens is you become frustrated from the lack of progress, and then you start trying to distract yourself from the fact that you're absolutely dog shit at doing this assignment. And you start indulging in the same things that are causing you to struggle this much on something that should be done in an hour or 2 hours. And so if you were to get rid of this short form content addiction, not even long form content, just short form, because I know that, long form content is something that a lot of people still look at, for example, shows, and I think it's still sustainable. But short form content is an absolute bullshit, and it does you no good at all. So if you were to get rid of this short form content addiction, then your focus would improve by at least 50% instantly. You don't have to do any of the other tips I just mentioned, but if you just got rid of this, then you'd be so much more productive, and you know it. I think you've probably always known it, but you just need someone to talk to you about it. So my action step is get rid of all the apps, for example, TikTok. If you need Instagram, then I think there's a mod that you can use to disable Reels, but and hold yourself accountable to it, because at the end of the day, nothing I say makes a difference unless you do something about it. All right, mistake number 5. This one I actually, I'm very guilty of, and this one is called you're a slave to your friends. And what I mean by that is that you have an insane fear of missing out, and a lot of people are already thinking, no, that's not me, but trust me, you might be wrong. So when you're a slave to your friends, you basically can't say no, and you're always looking for the next opportunity to hang out with your friends. And obviously it's not as serious as you don't think it is, but there's so many times where you go out with your friends, and it's usually 2 to 3 hours, because you don't really just go out and hang out for an hour, right? So it's usually around 2 to 3 hours, sometimes even longer than that. And what happens is, a lot of the times when you hang out with friends, it's not actually a memorable experience. You're just hanging out for the sake of hanging out because you have nothing to do, even though you know there's a lot more stuff that's more urgent and probably better if you do those things, like working on a task, so that you don't fall behind and start procrastinating. And so my point here is that there are a lot of times when hanging out with friends is not the best idea. And obviously I'm not saying you should never hang out with friends, because for those big gatherings and those big plans, by all means go to them. But for the little things that just happen and pop up, for example, you get a text from your friend who's like, yo, you trying to let me come over right now? You trying to go somewhere, right? Why? There's no memorable experience that will really come from that, and it's much better if you just stayed in and focused on the things that you were actually trying to do. And so a general rule for controlling the amount of time that you want to spend hanging out with friends is just get used to saying, if we don't have plans or if we don't have an appointment, I'm not going. And another way is also limiting the amount of times you can go out for once or twice a week, so that you end up prioritizing the moments or the gatherings that are more important versus the ones where it's just going out on a whim just because you're bored, because you know that there's more important stuff at hand. Okay, mistake number 6, you're brain dead. And this is probably a more complex, I wouldn't even say it's a mistake, but just a flaw in the students, because you could not do the other 5 and still suffer from getting low marks because of the level of thinking that you have, right? A lot of the times in classes, especially like English, computer science, science, business, you need to do a lot of thinking to create some high level, either it is a connection, a piece of writing, a proposition, a research study. You need a lot of thinking in order to create these complex topics and pieces of work. And if you can't think of complex topics, then you're not going to be able to achieve a high mark, because you simply don't have the intelligence for it. Now, this is one's kind of confusing, because I'm not just telling you to just get smarter. I'm telling you to start getting used to thinking of more complex topics and doing a little bit more on top of what you used to be doing, right? A lot of people do the bare minimum or pull out some bullshit statement from their ass, or even just use ChatGPT. I think a lot of people use ChatGPT nowadays, and I'm not banning it, to be honest. ChatGPT is pretty good, but for ideas and stuff, try not to use ChatGPT, because it hinders your cognitive ability to just think of good ideas. And if you can't think of good ideas and you lose that skill over time, it's going to be very bad for you. So try not to use ChatGPT for this one, and just go all out on your next project, no matter what it is, because I think that way you'll get more used to thinking at a higher level and putting in more effort to do whatever you want to do. And I think those are the 2 things that probably hold most people back from achieving a high quality piece of work. And so the final mistake that people make that keep them from getting into the 90s and also giving them that time freedom that they want in school is the fact that they're not organizing their time. And this one is probably less impactful in some cases, especially if you are someone who already gets good grades or has a lot of good time management, because you're already organized, efficient, and have a high level of thinking. But for those who don't have those things and are looking to get into the 90s, this will help. So you spend most of your day not knowing what exactly is going to happen next. And you kind of have a vague idea, but you don't know exactly what you're going to do next or where you're going to go. And what happens is you end up forgetting a lot of the responsibilities that you have to do, and also start becoming more anxious about the new responsibilities that pile up. And for example, you might have forgotten that you have an assignment due in a couple of days and you're scrambling to get it done, but the day after that, you go to class and you realize another class or another teacher has assigned a new project, and now you've got multiple projects to juggle through. You're more anxious. You're like, oh shit, why are there new projects coming up? I'm already stressed. Like, why is this happening to me? Right? And so a lot of the times you get into this state of confusion and panic because you don't exactly know what's going on, and new things just keep coming at you and your brain is overworking itself. I don't need to explain all the cons nor the benefits. You already know why organization is important. So my advice for approaching, staying more organized and starting to learn how to plan your day is just by going through your day by planning out 1 to 2 hour blocks. Planning your day out in 2 hour blocks will help you predict what's going to happen next, and it'll also help you prioritize what is important and gauge the amount of time you need to do specific tasks. And so I've educated you on these 7 mistakes that most students make that keep them from getting into the 90s overall while also having the time to do whatever they want. I've talked a little bit about the consequences of the mistakes and also the benefits of getting rid of those bad habits. For each mistake, I've given you an approach to start getting rid of those bad habits and seeing some quick progress, while also building up a tolerance and a skill to not indulge in those bad habits anymore. Obviously, because there were multiple topics, I didn't go in depth through any of them. And if you want to see me do a more in-depth analysis on a specific concept, or maybe talk about how you can improve on a specific bad habit or study habit, then don't hesitate to leave me a comment. And remember, nothing I say and nothing you've listened to matters unless you do something about it. So go do something about it.